Welcome back to What's Next, Living Longer, Better, Smarter. We appreciate you spending time with us. We have a lot to talk about in this episode, A Summer of Caring. And it is made possible by Momentra, bringing a holistic approach to wellness, enriching lives, and helping older adults live well and with purpose. Learn more at Momentra.com. Coming up, we'll be hearing from the leaders of some companies that were Innovative Award winners at the What's Next Longevity Ventures Summit. That was a big success in San Francisco. And these are companies focused on caring and improving lives. That's what we love. And our first guest, Amy Goyer, has been dedicated to caregivers as the AARP's National Family Caregiving Expert. We're going to be talking about caregiving and summer vacations. Hi, Amy.
Hi, how are you?
Amy, it's great to see you again, and thanks for joining us on the podcast. And thanks for the work you've been doing through the years to support caregivers. I think this will be helpful to so many people.
Great. Thank you so much for having me on, and it's great to work with you again.
All of us at one time or another become caregivers. Sometimes we find out in just there's a fall and it can happen very quickly. But you're saying that doesn't have to put an end to our vacations or travel. And you've done a survey about this. Tell us what you found.
So the AARP did a 2024 caregiving and travel survey, found some really interesting things. I think the most important thing is that we see that it can be a positive impact on both the caregiver and the care receiver. About half of family caregivers who have traveled with their loved ones said that they had an improvement in their emotional well-being. About a third said they had more mental clarity after a trip with their loved one. And for care recipients, about half have improvements in their emotional and mental health. So making these shared memories together, having shared experiences, I think there's such a positivity to that. And it's also about, living life. As caregivers, we're very isolated. Getting out somewhere, and even with our loved ones, when you're still caregiving, it's still a change of scenery. It's still seeing family and friends that maybe you haven't seen in a long time. So the more that we can support family caregivers in taking their loved ones on trips, the better.
Tell us about that aspect of it. Some people might think, oh, we're talking about caregivers getting away for some relief or whatever. But you're saying it's important for the caregivers and the loved ones to really take trips together. Why is that?
As I mentioned, I think shared experiences are how we build relationships. It's the memories that we have. And when you're caregiving for someone, it's easy to fall kind of into a role that is all about taking care of that person, about healthcare, about these things, and you don't have those quality of life moments with them as much. Sometimes travel, and the majority of family caregivers are traveling to see family or friends. Majority are traveling by car. You can take these trips. I talked to a caregiver recently who her granddaughter was getting married. She really wanted to go. She's taking care of her mother, the great-grandmother of the bride, and they wanted to go to the wedding. So she actually hired a helper to go with them on the trip so that her mother could go to the wedding and the beginning part of the reception. And then when she was tired, she could go back to her hotel room with the paid caregiver, and Grandma could enjoy her granddaughter's wedding fully and not be worrying about, I have to leave and go take Mom back because she's tired. So I think that's just such a good example that both of them got to have that experience. They went home, they talked about it, they looked at pictures together, they experienced it together. Maybe there's some differences in participation in all the activities, but they had that shared memory together.
You're so right. I took my mom on a trip. It was the last trip we took together, and she loved to fly because her family lived on the East Coast. But we went on a road trip visiting family, and then we went to the Ronald Reagan Museum, and she got to go on board Air Force One. And there's a picture of us waving out of Air Force One. That's a treasured picture for me because that was our last trip, and I still remember that. But I suppose that can change many of the things we need to think about when we plan a trip. And it becomes more of an adventure than a burden, right?
Yeah, if you look at it as an adventure, I really think that having realistic expectations is critical. I'm going to give you one example where my parents, I grew up mostly in Ohio. We had a farm there. My parents moved to Arizona, and they would go back every summer, and my sister lived at the house. And there came a time when we knew they weren't going to be taking long trips as much anymore, and I wanted to bring them back one more time to visit the farm. My other sister flew with us, thank goodness, because we did a connecting flight. I thought, well, that will be easier, it's cheaper, and we can do that. I never did that again. Direct flights are a good idea because when we got to Dallas, the flight to Ohio was canceled. So here we were. Thank goodness my sister was with me. The two of us split up duties, taking care of them, standing in line to get new tickets, finding a hotel, getting to the hotel, dealing with everything. But I'd done all the planning I could. We had, our carry-on luggage had everything we needed for medications and all of that type of thing. And we sailed through it together. It became a funny memory of all of us, and instead of ruining the trip.
Interesting. So what tips might you have for people who are looking at air travel or train? I mean, the unexpected, as you just pointed out, can and often does happen.
Absolutely, absolutely. So the number one rule is plan for extra time. If you're traveling by car, which most family caregivers are, then you know that it's going to take twice as long for your trip than you would if you were traveling alone. And so you are going to stop much more frequently, either for your loved ones to get up and stretch or to use the restrooms. You're going to probably make a lot more bathroom breaks than you would normally. So you need to plan the route so that you know where there are accessible bathrooms if they need that, add food that they'll eat and that type of thing. When do they need to take medications? Plan everything around that schedule. So if you think ahead that way, that makes it, a little bit more routine, and keeping in those routines is really critical. If you're flying, you need to make sure to contact TSA and find out anything you can to make the whole security thing easier. Might get a TSA identification card that says, I have a pacemaker or I have a certain health condition. My loved one has dementia. And then you might also want to get wheelchair assistance, because those folks who help you with the wheelchair are so kind, and they will help you through the airport so your loved ones don't get exhausted and you won't get exhausted trying to wrangle the luggage and them and the wheelchairs. And then they'll help you get through security too. I have found that to be much easier when I was traveling with my parents. If you are traveling by plane, you want to have medications and all of those things in a carry-on bag, and as well as a list of doctors and a list of all the medications and any kind of health insurance information, all of those things, of course. And in the car, you want those to be readily accessible. You don't want that to be at the bottom of the trunk, so you have to unload just to get something out you need along the way. Think about comfort. That's a lot of sitting. They need some extra pillows in certain places, maybe a neck pillow or a back pillow. What's going to keep your loved one calm and relaxed and comfortable during the trip? Do they listen to a certain kind of music? Are they listening to recorded books? And they could have headphones in the back seat and listen to their thing while you listen to music in the front seat. That might be a nice way to make the trip comfortable for everyone. So, think ahead about exactly what's going to happen along the way. Try to ward off any kind of challenges that might come up, and just be flexible. Know that it's not going to be perfect. It just isn't, and that's okay. That's just part of traveling. Whether you're traveling with a loved one or without, these things always happen.
Very good advice. Now tell us, what about traveling with a loved one who has dementia?
Right. So there's some extra things to be aware of. People with dementia especially need routines, and really everybody needs their routines. But with someone with dementia, that's a sense of security. They're going to be feeling maybe a little uneasy or confused about what's happening, what's going on. So make sure that you have whatever keeps them most oriented, My mom was my dad's North Star, so when he was with her, he was okay, or if he could see me or my sister. But he also had a service dog, and he was much more calm and oriented when he had the dog with him. So we had to plan for that. You might find that for people with dementia, getting used to a new location is tricky. So you don't want to be moving every 2 days. You don't want to go to this loved one's house and then 2 days later go to another loved one's house. Go to one place and stay there. And some families will rent a beach house, maybe a cabin in the woods. And if you go there and kind of make it as much like home as possible, that will aid with the transition. And you need to think about safety. So if you have a loved one who may be a little disoriented in a new location, you maybe want to look at safety factors that you're not even using at home yet. Like, for example, I stayed in a hotel once where I went into the lobby and there was a man walking around and I could tell he was lost and confused. And the hotel staff were young people. They really didn't have experience with that. They didn't know what to do. So I kind of helped out, and they figured out what room his son was in. And he had just gone out of the hotel room while his son was sleeping, and his son didn't wake up. So I suggested, how about a floor mat alarm that you put at the door, of your hotel room, and then that's going to wake you up the minute they step on it. You're not going to go out that door without waking you up. When I traveled with my parents, my dad had earlier stages of Alzheimer's, and we had adjoining rooms, and I had an audio monitor in there also, just to make sure I would wake up if he got confused or if they needed help going to the restroom, that type of thing. Bring along extra night lights. Because being able to see at night is a big factor, and it may be that your hotel room isn't oriented for that, or even a family member's home, they may not be used to having someone that they're caregiving for. So think about the accessibility factors there, and also about the safety factors for someone, especially who has dementia.
I have two questions. One is, what advice would you have for caregivers to ensure that the caregiver is able to enjoy the travel? And my second question, does the caregiver need a vacation after the vacation as a caregiver?
That's a really good question. I think one of my key tip about bringing along help, I think that's a critical factor for the caregiver to be able to enjoy the vacation. So this ability to have a little break, one family member is going to stay with the loved one for this afternoon while you go out and do anything you want to do, and then you're going to do the morning, or trade off days, that kind of thing. Knowing what is important to you. When you go somewhere on a vacation, you don't always think about, okay, when I come back, what's going to make me feel like I had a good time? What's going to make me feel renewed? What's important to me? Think about that and make sure that you plan that in there, that you have, whether it's alone time or lots of time with a certain family member, or seeing all the beautiful flowers, or walking on the beach. What is most important, and plan for that, because you know that it's not going to be the same as if you go by yourself, but it can still be good. And then, just making sure that the caregiver, sometimes caregivers do say that when they come back from a trip, they're emotionally and mentally, buoyed up by it, but they're physically exhausted.
Right.
So, that's to your point about, do they need a vacation from the vacation? I think we've all had that experience, whether we're caregiving or not. So think about that this is going to be a little bit tricky. And so don't overplan. Don't put so many activities on this trip that there's no way you're going to get any sleep, or you're going to be so exhausted. And when you do come back, if at all possible, plan some time off then. When your loved one comes back, if they're living in a facility, or if you have other caregivers who can step in and help, take a day or two off for yourself to get, yourself back together after a trip. I think often we don't think about when you come back. So I think that's just an excellent thing to plan for.
Great advice. And those of us who've traveled with children years ago, remember what you need when you get back to, you need more time. Amy, where can people go to learn more?
We have lots of good information at aarp.org/travelwithcare. And for information about any type of family caregiving issue, you can go to aarp.org/caregiving.
Congratulations, Amy, on the work you and ARP are doing here. And thank you so much for sharing with us.
Thank you so much for doing this and for approaching this issue. You had such good questions.
Mary, some really great information and advice from Amy. Let's turn now to some special people and innovations for our Summer of Caring. And they were all winners at the What's Next Longevity Ventures Summit. Jimmy Zola, founder of Joe and Bella, was named the winner of this year's John Hopper Impact Award. Hi, Jimmy.
Hi, thanks for having me.
Jimmy, congratulations again. The John Hopper Impact Award is so meaningful, named after John Hopper, who was a true innovator at Ziegler. He invested in so many, he inspired so many people. And the award recognizes an exceptional entrepreneur who's introduced an innovative solution or technology. And it was quite competitive, so very impressive that you landed as the winner. So, Jimmy, let's tell our friends, our listeners and viewers about the Joe and Bella story.
Well, first of all, thank you to Mary and Ziegler for the recognition. We're beyond humbled to be in the same sentence as John and knowing the amazing impact that he had on the industry. A little bit about Joe and Bella. So I was running my first startup, which was in marketing research. And at the same time, my family was helping to care for my grandmother. She was living in a memory care community just outside of Chicago. And when the pandemic hit, we were locked out just like everybody was. And it was really tough to communicate with her. And we tried just about everything, but the best way to talk to my grandmother was by FaceTiming one of the care partners at the community and going about it that way. It was interesting in that it gave us a lens into her life that we otherwise would not have seen. And one of these days, I FaceTimed a care partner who ran on into my grandmother's room, and I saw what it was like for my grandmother to get dressed. And it was a pretty shocking experience. It took, she's about 20 minutes start to finish, and she was crying. She was screaming. It was the first time I ever heard her swear, which was pretty shocking. And the nurse who was with her was doing everything right. She was kind and gentle and patient. And I called the nurse afterwards and kind of overwhelmed to say, what was that? What should we do? And the nurse let me know, hey, not only is this an everyday experience for your grandmother, this is an everyday experience for every resident in this specific care community. And my grandmother's struggle with dressing was about average for that specific community. And folks deal with pain in a lot of different ways there when it came to dressing. So I wanted to find a solution. I found a brand online that promised to make dressing a little less painful, ordered a few items, sent them to my grandmother. And when they arrived, I got her back on FaceTime and said, hey, what do you think? And she responded just by saying, too ugly. So that was the genesis of Joe and Bella. Our goal is really simple, to make clothes that look like what everyone always wants to wear. They're beautiful, but the goal is to reduce the pain, the stress of dressing, and allow for more dignified and safer dressing.
Describe for us more what the technologies or innovations that you incorporated were to make it less painful and easier for people.
So it was a long process. Right now we have 9 products to market. We'll have about 13 total products to market within the next 90 days. Each product takes us anywhere from 9 to 18 months to develop it and get on out there, because we want to make sure we are thinking through every possible use case and are thinking through how to reduce risk and pain and injury every step along the way. But to give a couple really quick examples, our hero product in a lot of ways is our men's button down. So when you see it out on the street or in a care home, it will look just like any other button down you've ever seen, except it's fit really well and it looks pretty slick. But the buttons you see are actually just for show. And we've sewn magnets behind the buttons themselves. We've added elastic to the cuffs. We've done what's known as dropping the shoulder and enlarging the armhole. And that all allows for an individual who is living with maybe dexterity changes, whether that be from arthritis or Parkinson's or other age-related changes, to potentially dress independently or just dress a whole lot faster with assistance. And I'll tell you what, it's a great solution for everyone, which is the goal. So I wear magnetic button downs now because why would I button buttons if I don't have to? But we have other solutions ranging from pants that are specifically designed to be worn with incontinence products or catheters, to socks that are engineered for someone with diabetes, so they're a little bit wider than a normal sock, and with extra grips on them as well. So it's a range of products, all of which we've poured a lot of love, sweat, and tears into.
Amazing. And how are you bringing all of these to market?
So right now you can find all of our products online through our own website. Several of our products are also listed on Amazon, and we work with a few retail and e-commerce partners as of now. But we'll see. I expect you will see us in the coming years in different retail locations and probably some unexpected location. But we're looking for partners too. So if anyone has a passion for what we're doing, which I'm guessing you do, because if you're listening to this podcast, I'm sure you have a passion for helping older adults age independently or easier with assistance, please feel free to reach on out. We're always looking for new partners and new ideas.
Well, one of the things that I like to think about is chronic conditions that people have in their 80s, in their 90s, and you really are solving around these chronic conditions because it's a big market. If you look at people that have had prostate issues, a lot of side effect is incontinence. And so here's a product that really is important for the marketplace. So it really is a caring company, a caring leader, a caring product that can make the lives of so many people better. And we expect great things to come from Joe and Bella and from you, Jimmy.
Well, thank you so much, Mary and Fred, and really appreciate you having me.
The website is joeandbella.com. Mary, the business plan competition at the Longevity Venture Summit is always popular, and the winner this year was a company that is also improving lives, Lotus, and founder Deval Patel. Congratulations, Deval.
Thank you, Fred. Nice to be here.
Deval, you have an amazing background with Apple and Lutron, and you have a wonderful story to tell us about this ring you've created, and you're bringing it to market. So let's share your story with the audience.
Sure, happy to share a little bit more about how it all started. So I was born with twisted knees, and over the years, I've been on and off crutches myself. And one night, a few years ago, I got into bed, having left the lights on accidentally. But I was too tired to get out of bed, hop onto my crutches, hobble 10 feet, turn off the light, and vice versa. So I just slept with the lights on the entire night and woke up in the morning thinking, if someone like me, an engineer managing a division at Apple, with expertise in wall electronics from Lutron, the company that makes the wall switches, and 37 patents, if an engineer like me doesn't even have smart home technology in their own home, who does? And that was the genesis of Lotus.
Now, not all smart home gear is easy to install, so let's describe what this ring can do and how you're changing all of that installation frustration.
Absolutely. So let's start off with what you would have to do today. So if you wanted Alexa to control your lights, well, the first step is you would have to sit and rewire your existing wall switches to connect to the internet, to be able to talk to Alexa. That's step one. Step two, wherever you've rewired your wall switches, you would now have to place a smart speaker in every room of the house to control the switches you just rewired. And step three, you then have to pair every switch one by one through another app. And this is best case if you own the home. If you rent a home, there's no solution. If you're traveling, there's no solution. And by the way, this is about 11 hours of rewiring or $2,000. And so it affects everyone, but it disproportionately affects people with limited mobility, about 27 million people that are older adults, disabled persons, and veteran soldiers. So to solve that, we built Lotus. And in a nutshell, Lotus is this wearable ring that controls objects at home by pointing. But unlike, say, Alexa, there's no apps, no rewiring, and no internet. And the way it works is step one, you just put on the Ring. That eliminates needing speakers in every room of the house because the Ring stays with you wherever you go. Step two, for any existing wall switch, without making any changes, you can attach the Lotus switch cover, and it attaches using magnets. So there's no rewiring necessary. And step three, all you have to do is point and click. And just like a TV remote, using infrared eliminates the need for apps, smartphones, and internet. Basically, with Lotus, you can go from home to smart home in seconds and take it with you wherever you go.
So what's next in getting this technology into the fingers of people who need it? Because that market's only going to grow.
Absolutely. So at the moment, we're already partnered with a couple of key partners, and we're looking to expand and partner with even more organizations. So at the moment, we're working with the federal government, which is Veterans Affairs, the state government, which is the state of New York, and a number of nonprofit CCRCs, or senior living organizations. In addition, we're looking to expand. So if there's anyone out there that would like to partner with us, we'd especially like to partner with organizations because we can have more impact that way. And in about a few months, we're considering opening the next fundraising round. So if anyone's interested, please do reach out.
And what about direct to consumer?
Great question. So we're about to launch our direct to consumer side in fall, probably around late September. And so at that point, you'll be able to go to our website, getlotus.com, and order directly from the website, and we will ship you a device.
Roughly the pricing?
Great question. So we're thinking a pack would be one Ring and 3 switch covers, and that would be around the price point of $349. So around the same price point as one Amazon Echo Show, which is around $300. But instead of a single smart speaker, you end up with a smart home.
Really exciting. The site again is getlotus.com. And there was also a People's Choice winner in the competition, Mary, and that went to Care Yaya and its founder, Neil Shah. Hi, Neil.
Hey, Fred and Mary. Thanks for having me. And hey, Deval, good to see you again.
Good to see you, Neil.
Neil, you're really out to change the world when it comes to caregiving. And you had a quote at the conference about, I think, the care market today is where I was 5 years ago. Is that right?
Yes. Yeah, totally. I think anyone thinking ahead is realizing kind of the crisis that's happening. And I think the time to invest and the time to build is now. Everybody's getting into AI now, but the forward thinkers were getting into it, in 2017, 2018. And I think that's where the care market is right now. Ripe for innovation, ripe for disruption, obvious to me. And I think forward-thinking entrepreneurs, innovators, and investors are getting into it.
So I loved seeing the interns you brought from Care Yaya to the conference. There was so much enthusiasm. And we love seeing you win the People's Choice Award. That's always so important because the whole audience, it was a very prestigious audience of about 275 people. But tell us what Care Yaya does and how it started.
Sure. Yeah. It started out of a deeply personal problem. As actually Deval experience, I really enjoy seeing people who build things out of, personal issues that they face themselves. So I, prior to starting Care Yaya, I was a hedge fund manager. And in my early 30s, I became a caregiver, first for my grandfather through dementia, kidney failure, and then end of life care. And right as that ended, then for my wife, 3 years of cancer. And I basically realized that 53 million Americans are going through care challenges, taking care of someone with a family. 29 million of them are in what we call the sandwich generation, where they're middle-aged, they're managing their career, caring for an aging parent or a spouse while raising children. And, I believe the home care market is completely broken. It's, it's a very old school 1980s way of doing business. It's high cost, $40 plus per hour to get home care help, even just companion care assistance in most markets. And it's fairly low quality because these care agencies are paying the caregivers very little, less than half. And it's inconvenient to book, so Care started out of a passion to say, why can't we bring technology and human capital innovation into this field, and just improve the care experience for everyone. So we wanted to build something that was better, faster, cheaper, and just that people would actually be proud to use to get care for a family member. So yeah, that was the genesis of the program. I'll compare kind of the old school way of getting care to the new school way of getting care. Old school way, you live in San Francisco, You call up a bunch of, 5, 10 local care companies that are franchisees of national franchisors. You grudgingly sign a contract with one of them, $45 an hour, 40 hours a week of care for your mom or dad who's, living with dementia. And then they turn around and staff with a minimally educated caregiver who they're paying less than half to be there. So you're paying very high dollars. You're dealing with onerous contracts, and you're dealing with like fairly low quality care. Oftentimes the caregiver doesn't even really want to be there. You're dealing with a big unreliability. 15% of the time, it's no shows or multiple hours late. So it's a high cost, low quality care system that we live in right now across San Francisco, Boston, most cities in America. And it's breaking the bank of most families. Here's how CareAd works. Go to the site. In less than 2 minutes, you can book care, caread.org. You can go on your phone, laptop, desktop. You can book high quality care. Best of all, the rates are 30 to 50% lower than the traditional care industry. You just pay on average $20 an hour. And then the most unique thing of all is all the caregivers are college students at top universities in America. So let's say you're in San Francisco, you're getting a college student caregiver from UC Berkeley, Stanford, San Francisco State, as well as several other schools in the area. Boston, you're getting a caregiver from Harvard, Tufts, et cetera. So you're paying half the price and you're getting a wonderful college student. Not only that, the college student is a pre-med. They want to be a doctor, or they're in nursing school, or they're pre-physician assistant. So they're people aspiring to healthcare careers. The reliability is through the roof, less than 1% no-show rates. On-time percentages are like 99-something%. I mean, it's like absurdly high quality. So for the person who is midlife, very stressed, taking care of someone in their family, it's literally better, faster, cheaper, and just like a wonderful experience. The final thing I would say is the money is not being leaked to profit margins and marketing and administrative waste and overhead. The money is all staying circulating in the local economy. So the amount that people are spending on getting care from it for a family member is directly going to the pockets of somebody who's going to be a future healthcare worker. So it's like really cool from a circular local economy perspective, as well as advancing the future healthcare workforce of tomorrow.
A real win-win for everyone, it sounds like, and for those students, right? They're getting an education that they wouldn't get anywhere else, probably. So tell us about the communities you're in and how this can grow.
Yeah, so we built the program in our backyard at Duke and UNC. So we're in Research Triangle Park, North Carolina. That's our headquarters. And we were building that for about the first year and a half or 2 years. In the last 6 months, it started to go viral across the country. So we are all over San Francisco. We're all over Boston. We're all over parts of Texas, Florida, Arizona. We're entering into kind of like, right now we're at like some of the top 30 universities in America, and we're trying to get to the top 100. There's over 18,000 students on the care platform now. So it's one of the largest care workforces in the country that's being quietly run by like a startup with a handful of people. So it's really cool to see the scale impact. I think if we keep getting it right, by the end of this year, we should have over 25,000 students on. And at saturation, we think we can have 500,000 students on this platform. So that's really cool to see. And that's a huge workforce expansion at a time when there's structural caregiver shortages in society. And the other thing I would say is that it's not only beneficial for the older adults who are getting the care, or the midlife people who are booking the care, it's actually changing young people's attitudes towards aging and caregiving. And I think that's one of the critical things we need to do as a society. Our population is aging very fast. There are just critical care shortages and everything. There's not enough geriatricians. There's not enough neurologists. There's not enough advancements in biotech and pharma on dealing with unsolved diseases like dementia and Alzheimer's. Parkinson's is growing very fast. So we need younger people to be motivated and inspired to realize the challenges that our society faces over the next 5 or 10 years. And the program is doing that by putting them out in the community. It's one thing when you read about something in a textbook. It's another thing when you go help someone locally and you see not just in the 15 minutes that they're in the hospital, but what is their life like? What are the challenges of what are the challenges of neurodegenerative disease, and inspiring people to kind of go pursue clinical careers, go pursue research careers to solve some of these unsolved problems. So I think that's really cool to see. And then just the intergenerational bonds and the companionship. I think that's like awesome. There are long lasting relationships being built that are just really cool to see from a social impact.
Affordability is a big part of your plan, and that isn't always easy. I want you to talk about that, and then talk a little bit about your angel investor strategy, because you've had a lot of support from doctors.
Yeah, sure. So we are deferring monetization, completely. So we don't take a dime off the care, and it's really cool to see the impact. It's a full out social enterprise. And we're kind of taking the burden on ourselves to figure out the path to sustainability. But I actually believe that care companies should not be charging the consumer markups. And right now, if we're taking the opposite stance of every care company in America, where most care companies are charging a 50 to 100% markup on the care worker and how much they're charging the family. Which, if you think about it from a family's perspective, why should I in San Francisco pay somebody $45 an hour to get care? And then the person who comes into my house and takes care of my mom or dad gets paid less than half of that. Like, that person is doing 99.9% of the hard work. The company's doing a little bit of sales and marketing and maybe a little bit of administrative work and matching, right? I mean, it's like, doesn't make logical sense, but that's how the entire care industry is set up in America. And I think that's a disaster for why there's caregiver shortages and why there's an unaffordable access to care, and why people are aging at home by themselves without care, falling, et cetera. So we really wanted to make affordability a key part of it, not just so that more families could get access, but also so that the caregivers could feel more motivated. The price transparency of how much the family is paying and how much the caregiver is getting really increases the motivation of the caregiver and creates a higher quality care experience. So that's a key part of it. And by deferring monetization, I think that we are building something that in the early days may be riskier, but it could actually follow the strategies of some of the biggest technology companies in America, Google, Facebook. If Google charged 3 cents a search to the consumer from day one, it wouldn't be Google. Like, it had to be free to the consumer and it had to provide an exceptional experience. And then it unlocked channels of monetization 4, 5, 6 years down the line. Same with Facebook, right? Facebook didn't monetize a dime for the first 5 or 6 years, but it became an awesome product that everybody loved and used. And then later had so many doors open to monetization that's still not directly off the consumer. And, those are advertising models, but there are other ways. And I think in this case, my theory is that if we build Care AI at massive scale, do a big workforce unlock, or delivering amazing care to a lot of people, solving a social problem, there are more than enough people interested. At scale, large corporate employers who need to manage, their employees' family caregiving needs, because I think this is going to be a big workforce issue in America. People are going to drop out of the workforce by the millions if they can't find care for aging parents or spouses and to do the care themselves. So I think employers are, we saw on the panel, Lindsay from Wealthy and other people talking about this, that employers are starting to think ahead about this. I think health insurance plans are already aware of this. They're starting to think that care is preventative and cost reduction for them of reducing hospitalizations. And Medicare is now rolling out the GUIDE program for dementia, where it's the first time in history Medicare is going to pay for a small portion of in-home care. And I think the care companies are missing this payer shift opportunity because of their high costs and, kind of localized structure, is that if you build something that is low cost and scale, you can go to Medicare and say, hey, this is better for you guys than subsidizing assisted living or skilled nursing. We can keep people at home healthier, happier, longer. So that's the theory. By doing it this way, we've attracted a lot of support from people who've been in the field. So our angel investors have been people like Dr. Linda Rosenstock, one of the foremost public health leaders, and she's a chairwoman of SCAN Health Plan out of California. We've had several doctors, chief of palliative care at Duke Health, chief of the geriatric ED at UNC Health. We've had retired CEO of Blue Cross Blue Shield of North Carolina. So we've had healthcare leaders who are thinking 2 decades ahead about how the country's care needs are going to shift, who have backed us from a personal perspective, which is really awesome to see. And then they're very aligned with the mission. So we're always looking for. We get flooded by a lot of investor interest from traditional VCs and everything, but we really screen for mission orientation because we're onto a good thing. And I think building it with the right minded people is the way to build scale. And I actually think, final point I'll make is that I actually think the biggest company in the care economy will be one that has a very strong social mission because that's critical. And I think we've seen some care companies try to scale very fast and fail because it's very clear there hasn't been a mission orientation. So I think it goes hand in hand. So I think sometimes, from purely commercial people, we hear some pushback that it's too much mission orientation, but I actually think they're missing the point that it's really intertwined in this industry specifically.
Wow. And Neil, congratulations on what you're doing there. And really, congratulations to all of our guests today. The website is careyaya.org. Mary, this has been perfect for a summer of caring and a great follow-up to the Longevity Ventures Summit, where there were some real aha moments.
Yes, I think when the founder of Wealthy said the 3 main social causes are climate, AI, and the care economy. So when we look at care, it is a big market opportunity, but more importantly, it makes a huge difference in the lives of people that are being cared for. Well, 2 brilliant entrepreneurs, both impacted by caring, And all of our guests today, just really terrific. And we wish them all the luck as they build their companies and watch them grow.
We want to thank our sponsor, Momentra, for helping to make this episode possible. Momentra brings a holistic approach to wellness, enriching lives, and helping older adults live well and with purpose. Learn more at Momentra.com. Thank all of you for taking the time to watch or listen, and you can always find us at maryfurlong.com/podcast.